Okay, so I did my full review on the other channel. If you want to check that out, we will be doing the trailer rewatch here, trivia, goofs, and review for Project Hail Mary. I liked it, but I ended up giving it a good enough rating because I think the movie isn't amazing. The story, the book is, and I think that's what the rating should be. The story is good, but the movie just didn't translate it correctly. I would say, I don't know. In my opinion, I would have kept all the sci-fi stuff. So I don't know. Very weird. We will be watching the trailer now and going over it and seeing what they changed or what they had in it. Very long trailer, almost 3 minutes. But I don't honestly. This is actually how long the movie is, kinda. So I don't know why they said they do the spoiler in this thing, and I watched the movie and I'm like, okay, why would that have to be the spoiler? There's another thing that I think that's the spoiler, So very weird, but yeah, we will watch the trailer now, and then we can see what they kept in it, what they spoiled, really.
I understand that you think I'm the right person for this mission. I understand the stakes.
Object approaching.
If we do nothing, everything on this planet will go extinct.
See, it seems like they're making it look more like it's about meeting Rocky, right?
The world is counting on you.
No,
I'm sorry.
That's funny. Yeah, I don't know if they should have showed this. They should have showed him. They shouldn't have showed it at all. I don't know.
I'm Grace. I'm gonna call you Rocky. We're here for this.
Wow, they really show it.
Too. If we're gonna save our planets, we have to learn how to communicate. Check this out. We have about 250 words. Let's find you a voice.
Why is a school teacher in space?
Oh.
Nope.
Why is a school teacher in space?
Try this.
I am Rocky. I like.
So I have a new roommate now.
Hi, Grace.
Together, we're pretty smart. But no one's ever done this before.
It is time go.
I think you mean go time, pal.
Yeah, and they make it look like there's a lot of...
There are infinite possibilities for this to go wrong.
This ship wasn't built for this.
If Grace Rocky saves stars, we can go home.
I think this is a one-way trip for me.
See, that's what I said, is that they show the spoiler in the trailer, right?
Die.
And I think that's Rocky, but I think that they moved the twist to when he decides to go save him and he gives up going to Earth. I think that's the real twist. The real twist is him going, hey, I gotta go save Rocky, and this, like, he doesn't know that the ship he's gonna die a painful death and all of that stuff. I think that's the real twist, right? Because they show the twist in the spoiler, in the thing, which I think that's pretty dumb. They could have just said, hey, need to go save this Earth, whatever, go there. And he goes there and he goes, whoa, what's happening? Whatever. And then we go, oh, what's happening? No, until we go see the movie. But they showed us saying, hey, here's the thing. Here's Rocky. He meets somebody. Cool. Oh, and then, yeah, whatever. I think they moved the twist they just changed it. But so that's surprising. I didn't remember that. They really just show them, really. That's I don't know. They didn't need to do that. Project Hail Mary. They could have just made it look like, hey, Earth is in trouble. We're gonna send a reluctant science teacher to space, and they hint at all this. They don't show it. That's so much better. But I don't think it mattered, right? Because the movie, it needed to leave all the explanation stuff in, and I don't know. In the end, it's like if you're not gonna read the book and this is your story, sucks. Technically it's not good, because they don't explain things. How does Rocky know English? How does he speak English? I don't understand that. Or, he understands Grace without a translator. I don't understand that. Maybe I missed the part where it explained it, but seems like for plot convenience, he understands English. Here's a couple of these reviews for it. This guy says, this is one of the few times I've seen an adaptation where everything looks exactly how I pictured it while reading the book. See, I think that the people who read the book definitely are the ones who liked it. I don't know, because the stuff that they cut out, they know about it. They know how the ship works. They know all the backstory. They know all of that. They know how long it took for Grace to figure out the translation technology thing to talk to Rocky. They know all of those things. So I think for them, it's a completely different experience. And I don't know. If it's really for them, they are okay with it cutting out all the stuff, I guess. It's different because they know the story. For them, it's an 8.3 star story. But for me, seeing the movie, going, wow, I don't get it. What's going on? Lame, 7 stars. It's entertaining, it's sweet, but man, this could have done with all the other stuff. So, very weird. Somebody else said, I went in blind, never read the book or watched the trailer. The movie was insanely good. I got to see it again. I agree. I do. But at the same time, I'm left with more questions. They could have just... They already said it's too long. They already said the movie drags in some spots. Okay, so that's a thing. And they could have swapped those with sci-fi explanations. I don't know. I just have a lot of questions. And I understand it's a movie, whatever. But they could have... the test screenings, I guess, went fine. I don't know. But why are people complaining it's a little too long? Some parts drag. And it is. It's like, it does at a few moments. It's, I don't know. This guy goes so far to say the Oscar is yours. Maybe, sure. He does well. So, I don't know. And then, these things got annoying. They were cute, but at some point, you go thumbs up. You kind of, you kind of just go, okay, thumbs up. I'm going to stop being an idiot. Rocky's an idiot now. Rocky's an engineer. He's done all this stuff. He built these weird suits that would have taken forever to build, but he can't understand a thumbs up. Come on. I get it. Ha, funny. But really, Jesus. At the end, what they should have done was Rocky goes, thumbs up. He got it. No, but they couldn't do that. Rocky was an idiot, even though he wasn't an idiot, till the end. It's just very weird. Saw it earlier today. You could hear a pin drop. The audience was so captivated. There was no talking, no eating, complete silence. That can't be true, by the way. And lots of nose blowing at certain points. I had a grown man next to me weep. It's that good. Okay. Sure, I guess. You know, I the middle part I don't agree with. The rest, sure. I had a grown man next to me weep. It's just the way this guy is writing this sounds very bizarre. What do people say to that? I can confirm this. Saw it in France tonight. This movie destroyed me. Probably my favorite ever. Really? That good? Come on. You know? No. I liked it. Was fun. It was fun though. It was fun movie. It was cool. It was sweet. I laughed. But honestly, you know, just it wasn't that amazing though, well, I think. And if they said, hey, read the book first, I think it would have been more accepted. You know what I mean? Because I think that everybody who read the book understood it. You would. You'd be like, oh, they're going to gloss over that. In the book, it takes longer, you know, whatever, blah, blah. Oh, in the book, it's like this, whatever. Technically, you don't have an issue with the story. You get the story. Me? Oh, how is that working? How does Rocky know English? How does this work? How is there a 3D printer in space? What is the Styx ship that Rocky is in? You know what I mean? You know, I don't know. I get it's a movie, whatever. Some parts did drag. It was like, get on with it. You know, like we didn't need to see everything. And if they really wanted to show all of those things, what I'm saying is they could have just shown the sci-fi stuff. They could have just explained how everything works instead of the lingering scenes or whatever, you know? I don't know. 2.5 hours is a long time. I mean, at least it wasn't 3 hours and 17 minutes like Avatar 3. I mean, sorry, Avatar Part 2. Avatar 2 Part 2. I mean, yeah, I guess the rest of it is, Rocky's tone of voice is very cool. Very sweet, very emotional. It can make you tear up. The way he says it, the way he talks, it is funny, you know? So I understand. I'm just saying, I just don't think it's that amazing. I don't know. I was very entertained though. I had fun. I liked it. I enjoyed it, but no, that's why I gave it a good enough rating. I don't think it was good. I think it was good enough. It did good with what it kept in the movie left over from the story. Okay, so here is the page for this movie. See, 8.3. I don't know. I mean, that's so much. Like, it's very fun and stuff. Maybe it's just me, I guess. It's just me. I just wanted more. I like sci-fi. And when I see the ship moving like that, I'm like, what? How is that possible? You know? And then I just want to know what that is. I want to know how Rocky operates. How is his whole world rocks? How is he I don't get, like, where, explain that. Like, he must have a brain, and he's a bat, technically, with no eyes, you know, echolocation or whatever. So he's literally rocks? How is that possible? Why does he look like a spider? Are there upright human-looking Iridians? Are there Iridian spiders or whatever, and they look like humans? Or they look like them? I don't get it. Like, I just want to know what those are. Those things, I thought it was so cool, you know? Like, I saw that, I'm like, what? That is so awesome. And then I searched it, I read it, I'm like, wow. Yeah, so I don't know about the 8.3 star rating. I mean, that's really high. That's really, really high. I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that. Like, look at this, okay? Reviewers say Project Hail Mary delivers a visually stunning IMAX-worthy spectacle with exceptional cinematography and heartfelt emotion that resonates deeply. That part, I'm sure, is what made everybody cry, right? I'm sure. That's very sweet. That's cool. Ryan Gosling's charismatic performance and Jamie Ortiz's motion capture work as Rocky and the voice earned widespread acclaim for the emotional depth and humor. Yes, I agree. That's very emotional and very sweet. And yes, that's very awesome. However, the 156-minute runtime divides audiences, with some finding it overlong and dragging in the middle. The adaptations simplified scientific elements, and occasionally sentimental approach disappoint those seeking the book's intellectual rigor, though most find it engaging and emotionally satisfying overall. I completely agree. That's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, isn't that funny? It's very, very strange. Simplified scientific elements. I just don't understand that. They could have, if they wanted to keep in all of that stuff and have it drag in the middle, they should have added the 24 minutes and made it 3 hours and, made it very more complex explanations of the scientific elements. So, I don't know. I think that would have really helped, but that's why I think it's 7 stars. 7.1.2. It's sweet and silly. And how long can somebody be an idiot or whatever, or be a dork? I mean, yes, he's reluctant, but I don't get it. So yeah, very strange. But now we can move on to the trivia. Look, there's a lot here. So here we go. The first one is the scene where Eva Stratt sings karaoke who's not in the original script. Ryan Gosling overheard Sandra Hüller singing between takes and asked her to perform for the movie just 48 hours before filming that scene. Hüller agreed and selected Sign of the Times by Harry Styles as her song, making this the second movie where she performs a live song after Tony Erdmann, 2016, where she did Whitney Houston's The Greatest Love of All. That's pretty awesome. Puppeteer Jamie Ortiz originally recorded Rocky's translated lines with the understanding that they would be dubbed over by a professional actor. Wow. It was just like a stand-in thing. That's cool. The directors, while watching early cuts, found the lines were done well enough and couldn't be improved upon by another actor. So Ortiz's performance was kept in the final movie. That is so funny. So that is his voice. When Grace is going through the voice sounds, the one that he gets to is this guy, I guess. That is crazy. It sounds like it was on purpose, though. That's how good it sounds. And that's the original recording. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. Very awesome. That was the best part for me, was like, yeah, it was weird, I guess, but in a way, whatever. But the way he talks and the way his sound is, which is a guy's voice, I guess, like it really, it's kind of emotional. Like it really is like, it adds that thing to Rocky's character. It's pretty crazy. Yeah, it's just like, it's such a perfect sound. Maybe that's why, like, to our ears, the sound of the voice, the tone is like comforting to us or something, like beta waves or zeta waves or whatever those things, like, you know what I mean? Like a frequency that the brain finds soothing. But because every time he talked was like, it was so adorable. Like, I guess that's what it is, like an edge of cuteness to how he speaks and talks. He's like Rocky Kenzie, boring. It's so funny. This, like, yeah, how he is, which I guess also kind of goes to his personality too, I guess. So it is when Grace first meets a team of astronauts, Yao and Stratt have a brief exchange in Chinese. This exchange roughly translates to, Yao, why does he talk like we are all children? Stratt, it doesn't matter. You get used to it. So funny. Ryan Gosling's daughters, Esmeralda and Amada, occasionally spoke for his alien co-star, Rocky, voiced in the film by Jamie Ortiz, through his earpiece on set. Speaking of their help, Gosling said, there are some moments in the movie where I'm laughing or I'm just so charmed by Rocky, which is like it's actually my kids talking to me and helping me out. Wow, that's so cool. I wonder if they could make, or Rocky's voice as an AI choice for Alexa, maybe, or something like that. That would be pretty cool, I think. Ryan Gosling was the only choice for Grace. Wow, and was signed on after the book rights were bought in 2021. He was the only choice. Huh. Wonder how that works. You know, like James Gunn, when he writes his scripts, you know, he says he writes the song choices on the side. It's because he's thinking of what song would go with the moment, like what he's feeling and making him like emotional, I guess, or whatever. And that's how he chooses the music. So, you know, maybe Andy Weir wrote it a long time ago, and he always thought Ryan Gosling would be the best choice. You know, like he could play the character as well as portray what Andy Weir, you know, is envisioning in this character. One of the credits for Rejected Rocky voice is Ray Porter, the narrator of the English language version of the Project Hail Mary audiobook. Wow, okay, yeah. That is so funny. That's cool. Wow, the astronauts of the Artemis 2 mission watched the film in quarantine before the launch to the moon. The directors wanted Rocky to look as tangible and real as possible, so the character was played by a puppet, with the puppet operator being digitally removed in post-production. Wow. There are only a couple of shots where Rocky is fully CG. That's awesome. Ryan Gosling wears glasses in the film because during wardrobe tests, his daughter passed by and mentioned he looked smart with glasses. That's so weird. There's another thing he does too that ended up not being correct. How he wears the glasses. This is actress Sandra Hüller's first American film and one of very few English language films. That's awesome. SETI is a star located approximately 11.9 light years from Earth, with the current fastest crewed spacecraft Artemis 2 Orion. It would take roughly 321,300 years to reach it. Wow, that is, Jesus, insane. Andy Weir sold the book's film rights to MGM in early 2020 for $3 million. I wonder if he has a deal for residuals or something, or a royalty or something. I wonder what he sold The Martian for. You know? And then I wonder what the next one is Artemis, I think he's doing, or I forgot what it is, but hopefully he gets more money. I would do no selling it. I would just I get some other deal, you know, I don't know, more of a royalty residuals deal. And then when it hits a certain amount of number, you can renegotiate the contract. I think that'd be good. Grace's habit of hanging his glasses off. Here we go. This one. Of his ears below his chin was something Ryan Gosling came up with. It wasn't until several weeks into filming that he found out people who wear glasses don't actually do this. But by then they'd shot too many scenes of him doing it to cut this quirk. Daniel Craig's character in The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo also had the same habit of hanging his glasses from one ear. That's so weird. I don't get that. Why didn't Ryan Gosling go hang out with some scientists, you know? Rocky's computerized voice is provided by his lead puppeteer, James Ortiz. That is so cool. Grace saying that his girlfriend left him for Mark, and Rocky's response, I hate Mark. We're both improvised. That is so funny. And it also borders on heartwarming. Yes. Okay, that's it. Yeah, heartwarming. That might be part of the X factor is beautiful, heartwarming, you know, stuff like that. Because the mark that Ryan Gosling was referring to is his real life longtime friend who has worked with him on several projects, and the real Mark was honored to now have a personalized Easter egg for the film. Wow. Ryan Gosling admitted he hated filming the zero gravity scenes since hanging from wires, the experience is the opposite of how it looks on screen, and he had a strenuous task of contorting his body while on wires to appear weightless. Gosling, however, remarked that his physical awkwardness fit with Grace's lack of preparation. There you go. Rocky puppeteer and voice James Ortiz also has an uncredited role near the start of the film, playing a scientist reporting on the Arclight probe, encountering the Petrova line. That is pretty cool. Author Andy Weir's initial announcement of a film made from his book was made on April 1st, 2022. I'm thrilled to announce that Emma Stone will be playing Rocky in the film adaptation of Project Hail Mary. This will be a reunion of Stone and Ryan Gosling, who will be playing Ryland. Though the film will be a little different from the book, the on-screen dynamic and romance scenes will more than make up for the minor changes. This was an April Fool's joke, though the casting of Gosling turned out years later to be accurate. Rocky was instead voiced by Jamie Ortiz. That is so funny. Phil Lord and Christopher Miller are attached to direct another Andy Weir film adaptation, Artemis, and an original movie written by Weir. There you go. So that is the next one, Artemis. We could check that out maybe at the end of this section. The next one is Eva Stratt is East German in the movie, the same as Sandra Hüller, who portrays her. In the original book, she is from the Netherlands. Okay. When Grace recalls his memory from Earth, the screen changes to a wider aspect ratio. I really like that. On the German theatrical poster, Sandra Hüller received top billing besides Ryan Gosling. Rocky's language is represented in the book by music notes. The rhythm of one of these sequences can be found as musical motifs throughout the score, most notably in the song Learning to Communicate, which plays while Ryland and Rocky establish their shared language. See, that stuff I wanted to know all of that. And yeah, I don't know. It really was for the book readers. And maybe they should have given everybody a free copy of the book, and then to get more people to read the book and then go see the movie, to satisfied, because I wasn't satisfied. I wanted all those little things that they cut out. So I don't know. Maybe there'll be a director's cut one day, make it 3.5 hours or something. This became the first ever film to premiere in the stratosphere. What? Spoke? IMAX display was sent into space that was played footage from the film. Like, what, the Tesla Roadster or something? That is, I wonder if you could find footage of that on the internet somewhere. Taucetti and 40 Eridani, are both real stars. Taucetti is located 11.9 light years from Earth. It is a single star in the constellation Cetus. Taucetti is a G-type main sequence star very similar to the Sun, although it has only 78% of its mass, making it slightly dimmer and cooler. As of release, there have been no planets discovered orbiting Taucetti, although it is theorized there may be upwards of 4. 40 Eridani is a triple star system located 16.3 light years from Earth in the constellation of Eridanus. It consists of a primary K-type main sequence star called 40 Eridani A or Keed. It is an orange dwarf with roughly 81% of the sun's radius, 75% of its mass, and half its luminosity. 40 Eridani A is orbited by a binary star pair, about 400 AU, distant 40 billion kilometers, 37.15 billion miles. 40 Eridani B, a D8-type dense white dwarf, roughly 0.5 to 0.6 times the sun's mass, but compressed into a radius about 1.4% its size, making it roughly the same size as Earth. It is an old collapsing star with a temperature of 12,000 to 16,000 Kelvin, making it over twice as hot as the sun, but far less luminous, emitting only about 1.3% of the sun's total light. 40 Iridian C is an M-type red dwarf, a small, faint, and cool star about 20% of the mass of the sun, 20% of its size, and 65% dimmer. There have yet to be any planets discovered in the Eridani system. Astrophysicists believe it may be possible for a planet orbiting 40 Eridani A to support life if it orbited at a distance of 0.68 AU, which is 101.7 million kilometers, 63.19 million miles. But any planets that might be orbiting 40 Eridani B and C would be uninhabitable to carbon-based life, at least, due to the large amounts of ionizing radiation and X-rays emitted by the star's frequent, powerful solar flares. Wow, that was a lot to read, and this middle section was a little tough to read. But wow, that's so interesting. I wonder how much Andy Weir researched, to write the stories. It seems like he did research and wrote it based off of reality and stuff like that, because that's what it is. It seems like is what I just don't understand why they cut it all out of the movie. They should have done that. I mean, they could have found a clever way to say all of this or something, or I mean, this isn't entirely important, this part, but I'm just saying the expansion of stuff that they cut out, all of the nerdy stuff, all of this stuff basically. I just wish it was in the movie. And as while the movie design of the Hail Mary ship is larger and more elaborate than the retro rocket described in the novel, the presentation Grace is shown about the ship includes a slide with an image that looks very similar to the book's diagram of the ship. That's so cool. Rocky isn't CGI. It took 5 puppeteers to bring him to life, with the head puppeteer becoming Rocky's voice. 4 actors are listed under the credit rejected Rocky voice. That's so cool. Second film adaptation of a novel by Andy Weir, with his screenplay by Drew Goddard following The Martian. The fastest film to reach 1 million viewers on Letterboxd. 11 days after its theatrical release, it broke the record held by Barbie and Superman at 12 days each. Wow. The name of the main character is Ryland Grace, and the name of the ship is the Hail Mary. So it is Hail Mary full of grace. Maybe Hail Mary containing grace, but he in no way fills the ship, neither figuratively nor literally. Phil Lord and Crystal Miller, first film as directors in over a decade, since 22 Jump Street, excluding their uncredited work on Solo, A Star Wars Story, most of which was scrapped after their firing. Yeah, these two have a historical firing, I guess, or whatever, from Solo, A Star Wars Story, which is so funny. I mean, I guess. Rocky's initial name for the planet, Adrian, is medium rough texture circle planet. Iridians cannot perceive color, and therefore cannot see Adrian's vibrant green atmosphere. However, green falls in the center of the spectrum of light visible to humans, so it does make sense that he would perceive it as medium rough or middle. Wow. The 3 astrophage dots that Grace initially received from Strut to research with, he named them Larry, Curly, and Moe. The names can be seen on the whiteboard during the conversation when he asked Carl why they went to Venus instead of stopping by Mercury. These are the names for the 3 Stooges. When Ryland and Eva meet on the deck of the aircraft carrier during the party, Ryland points out to his head and asks her, why did you get the free hat? This is now to an iconic SNL skit with Gosling and Kate McKinnon in the episode Ryan Gosling Jay-Z in 2017, entitled Another Close Encounter. In that skit, the characters discuss the NASA officials, their abduction, with NASA officials, their abduction by aliens, and Ryan's character refers 3 times to the free hat he was given by NASA. I think I remember that one. That's funny. Surpassed Creed 3 as Amazon MGM Studios' highest grossing film. Wow. Grace's pack on his spacewalk suit is number 2. This is the same number on Mark Watney's suit in The Martian, which was also based on an Andy Weir novel. That is pretty cool. The aircraft carrier in the movie is the USS Carl Vinson CVN-70, the United States Navy's 3rd Nimitz-class supercarrier. The 70 is the ship's hull identification number. It can be seen on the sides of the bow and on the bow of the flight deck. The ship's nickname is the Golden Eagle, and her motto is Vis per Mare, strength from the sea. That is really cool. 2 of the various t-shirts Grace wears on the ship depict cats. One has a reproduction of the poster art from the stage musical Cats, and the other is a cartoon by noted cat artist B. Kliban, showing a giant tabby cat sitting on the Golden Gate Bridge. I also really like the science shirts that he wore. I periodically wear this shirt, as well as the element of surprise. Those are so cool. When the 2 spaceships meet and establishes contact the first time, it is accompanied by tango music with the camera spinning around the two ships as if they were engaged in a dance, thereby alluding to another sci-fi classic, Stanley Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey, where two spaceships make contact accompanied by a waltz, wow, by Richard Strauss. Well, that's pretty cool. The film cast includes one Oscar winner, Meryl Streep, as a rejected Rocky voice, and two Oscar nominees, Ryan Gosling and Sandra Hüller. That's so cool. Ryan Gosling's second highest grossing film after Barbie. Phil Lord and Christopher Miller's highest grossing film as director, surpassing the Lego Movie. Andy Weir's first film as producer. Wow, you think they're going to let him direct? He's going to write one, but you think he's going to direct it? Probably, huh? Not eventually, right? In the novel, 2022 Ballantine Books trade paperback edition, 22nd printing, there is a diagram of Hail Mary, which has no thermal radiation panels. Wow. Second film, Ryan Gosling portrays a teacher following Half Nelson in 06. There is a scene where Grace compares himself to a space villain holding a piece of glass segment. Yes, Superman, which is a clear reference to Superman and Superman 2, where the three Kryptonian villains are trapped in the Phantom Zone. The image was of the villains pressed against the Phantom Zone barrier as it flew through space. That is so funny. The pipettes used by Grace when studying the astrophage are BioHit M-Line adjustable volume single channel pipettes. In 2011, a Sartorius, a German-based supplier of pharmaceutical and laboratory equipment, acquired this product line from BioHit. That is funny. Wow, okay. Okay, the next ones are spoilers. So yeah. Grace briefly mentions that the Iridians haven't discovered relativity. The book explains that this is the reason Rocky's ship holds enough fuel for the return trip and to refuel the Hail Mary. They didn't know the relativistic time dilation and length contraction effects, so they thought they needed much more fuel to reach Tau Ceti. Wow, that's awesome. Next is Ryan Gosling ad-libbed numerous lines, including Meryl Streep. Man, she could play anything. When Grace was going through the Rocky voice synthesizer options, that's funny. The team then got Meryl Streep to do her own voice for that scene. Awesome. They were able to get into contact with her via producer Amy Pascal, who had worked with Streep on Steven Spielberg's The Post. Is really, really awesome. That is so funny. Author Andy Weir declared that a fan suggestion about the end of the story was canonical. Grace named the living area the Iridians built him Graceland, and then refused to explain to Rocky why he finds the name funny. The book doesn't contain the scene of Straw watching Grace's video. In the book, Grace, and thus the reader, the book is written almost entirely in the first-person narrative, finds out that he saved Earth when Rocky tells him Iridian astronomers have determined that our sun has regained full strength. Therefore, it is assumed that the Beatles successfully made it back to Earth, successfully made it back to Earth, and Stratt's people were able to make enough Tamibas to defeat the astrophage, allowing the sun to get back to full strength. See, now that is a really good explanation of the real, you know what I mean? Like what actually happens. Yeah, that's really nice. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, Tamibas to defeat the astrophage. That is so crazy. Wow. Definitely, see, that's what I'm saying. I said in my review that this story could kind of happen, but I don't mean maybe this point, I guess, you know, I mean, to this extent, you know, like maybe something happens to the sun one day, you know, maybe we're just not able to go to a planet to do this, you know, and then the sun depowers and we all die, you know? And so I'm just saying, this is kind of a believable scenario of something that could happen in the solar system, you know? A big comet could come through and hit all the planets, you know? Who knows? I don't know. So yeah, it's kind of funny. And then there are two key details for two of the major decisions left out from the film. First, the main reason why Grace was kept involved in the Hail Mary project, once a scientific theory about life was proven irrelevant, is because he carried a rare gene with him, which made him suitable for the long-induced comas required for the journey to Tau Ceti. Oh, okay. Well, that's interesting. This gene was carried by all 6 astronauts, including the backups. So once the 2 scientist astronauts died in the explosion, it was simply impossible to find a qualified scientist that also carried the rare gene. Second, Grace mentions needing to ration food to live longer, but this was before Rocky said he could spare some astrophage fuel to get Grace home. When Grace realizes Rocky is stranded in space without any fuel, he knows he won't have enough food to make it back to Earth if he rescues Rocky. Even if they're able to breed more astrophage for fuel, he'll starve before he gets back to Earth. Later, Rocky notes that Talmiba is a protein and can be grown as food for Grace. Okay, well, maybe those are too many writing conveniences or whatever, right? Like, oh, okay. So the Talmiba can also do this because we need it because of the story? Or maybe Grace just dies. Maybe that's the story, you know? It's a sad one. And then that's what happens. So who knows? Let's see. During a flashback, Rylan demonstrates to his class how various sounds have unique patterns that can physically manifest. This hints at Rocky, whose species operates on echolocation and sees things similarly to Ryan's demonstration. This is also a hint at the technology Rocky uses to be able to view screens. That is crazy. I'm sure rewatches you're gonna notice those things. While portrayed more as a project leader in the movie, Eva Stratt has almost a total authority to carry out Project Hail Mary in the book. When the leaders of the various nations asked her to lead the project, she had 2 conditions. First, she was to be given complete authority and autonomy over the project. And second, the president of the US, president of Russia, general secretary of China, prime ministers of the UK, Australia, Canada, France, Japan, and the leaders of any other nation involved in the project had to give her blanket pardons for any and all violations of state, provincial, federal, and international laws that might be required to complete the project. Holy crap. This made Stratt above any government control and gave her access to any personnel and material she needs. She has a much colder persona in the book because she's focused on one thing: saving Earth at any cost. She needs to make difficult decisions like nuking the polar ice caps to release more CO2 to keep the Earth warm. Holy crap. Now that is insane, and that's a bummer they didn't keep that in the story. I mean, or at least, made that more obvious or something, as well as keeping that scene in the movie even. Because, I mean, yeah, that would have been awesome to see that. Wow, that's crazy. The 40 Eridani star system where Rocky comes from is also the same system where the planet Vulcan is located in the Star Trek franchise. Wow. In the novel, Grace makes a comment regarding Earth's first contact with alien life, not being Vulcans dropping by to say hi. When Stratt is watching Grace's video diaries, her ship is sailing through semi-frozen water, implying that the planet has already begun cooling dramatically due to the dimming of the sun. In the book, Rocky confirms to Grace that Iridian scientists were able to determine that the sun eventually did return to full strength, meaning Stratt and her team were able to successfully introduce Talmiba to astrophage. Yeah, that's interesting. Maybe that scene is also implying they nuked the polar ice caps, or they're gonna nuke the polar ice caps. But yeah, anyways, that's cool. This one is, there are a number of events in the book which do not happen in the film. Okay, here we go. This is the good stuff. These include: the ship's computer does not allow Grace into the control room until he remembers and can speak his name, which takes him a while. Wow. Grace does not immediately realize that he's not on Earth when he wakes up from his coma. He works out that the gravity seems too high and conducts his own experiments to measure the gravity level. Jesus. After determining astrophage is mostly water, Grace goes back to teaching, but in his first class, the students ask him about what is happening to the sun. After explaining astrophage to them and realizing they will have to live through the hard times that will come as a result of astrophage's effects on the sun. He abandons the class and immediately goes back to SWAT's lab so as to continue his research. Wow. Okay. Wow. That's interesting. Before Rocky connects his ship to the Hail Mary, Grace has to send him a sample of his hull. He does a spacewalk to break off a chunk covering one of the fuel tanks, throws it to Rocky's ship, and it is caught by his hull robot. Weird. Wait, so before Rocky connects his ship to the Hail Mary, Grace has to send him a sample of his hull. So he does a spacewalk, got a chunk covering one of the fuel tanks. Oh, okay. Well, that's interesting. Wow, I see. I really wish that. Yeah, I'm feeling like these are starting to make me like want to lower my rating from. I want to give it like a 7.1, 7.2 maybe. Now I want to give it like a 6.8. Knowing, you know what I mean? Like, Jesus. I don't know. Yeah, they should have left some of this in or put it in some way. A large section of the Sahara is paved with a massive array of solar panels being used to redirect the sun's energy to help with astrophage production. They didn't show that. Yeah. This action alone caused a severe climate change. A large section of the Sahara is paved? Holy crap. They should have made this 3 hours and just shown how massive of a story it kind of is, or seemingly is. Like Dune. Dune is so cool because Dune just like lingers on shots of the ships leaving, and you can see how heavy the ships are trying to take off. Crazy. I really feel like, yeah, that would have helped really feel the impact of how big and heavy the story, actually technically is. Let's see. So, and then Strut orders several natural disasters to be caused, there you go, to accelerate global warming and therefore buy humanity more time. This is done by periodically detonating tactical nuclear warheads under the ice sheets in Antarctica. That is insane. Releasing large amounts of carbon dioxide and methane into the atmosphere, causing a greenhouse gas effect. Wow. See what I'm saying? They could have at least shown this in montages, I think. And, yeah, they could have done that, with voiceover, that would have been fine. Amoeba escaped while Rocky is still with Grace and eat all of the Hail Mary's fuel, forcing them to use the Beetles as miniature engines so as to reach Rocky's ship. Wow. Would have changed the whole thing. What? That's crazy. Then at 2 hours and 23 minutes and 2 seconds, Grace briefly fires the main engines of the Hail Mary. Then he looks at the petroscope display until he sees a blip. The movie doesn't give any more context, but the book goes on for several pages to explain that Grace needed to solve the needle and haystack problem of finding Rocky's ship when it was far outside of Hail Mary's radar range. Grace's solution was to use the engine's tremendous output to give off a brief pulse of infrared light, and then use a highly sensitive petroscope to look for the point of light reflected off Rocky's ship. Wow. Since there was a 7-second delay, Rocky's ship was about 650,000 miles from the Hail Mary. That is okay. So he briefly does that, and then it doesn't explain why. But what happens is all of this. Gosh, I really wish they would have just shown that. What? Come on. They could have made a 3-hour epic film, Or even, they could have even done it in 2 hours and 35 minutes and put all of this stuff in. I bet you they could have found a way to do it. The next one is the computer calculates that the return trip to Earth is slightly over 4 years. Although light needs 11.9 years to travel from Tau Ceti to Earth, this does not mean that the Hail Mary is moving faster than the speed of light. Since the ship accelerates to a velocity close to the speed of light, then relativistic effects, length correction time dilation, contraction time dilation occur, and that makes the trip take less time from the point of view of the traveler. This means that while a little over 4 years pass for Grace, about 12 to 14 years pass for everyone on Earth. Oh. Those things that is so scary. Oh my God. That is pretty interesting though. I like that they do, say that in the movie. In the first meeting between Grace and Rocky, Ryland plays the 5 initial notes of the scene where the aliens communicate with humans in close encounters of the third kind. That's funny. Or like a slight hint or a reference or an homage, whatever. Grace's jumpsuit features civilian wings on his name patch. Civilian wings are embroidered in silver and then changed to gold when they return to Earth. Grace's wings are already gold because he was never supposed to return, so there wouldn't be a chance to change them. Okay. Grace sends the Talmiba breeder farms back to Earth in plastic peanut butter jars because while Talmiba evolved to escape xenonite, plastic was still a strong enough barrier to keep it contained. Directors Phil Lord and Christopher Miller have said in interviews that Sandra Hüller's character Ivestrat has a small tattoo barely visible on her neck in the scene of Future Earth, indicating that she'd been prosecuted for her actions in the movie and sentenced to life in prison? What? However, she managed to break out with her connections and continues to save the world afterwards. What? This is in the movie? Ending up on the icebreaker on the frozen sea and finding Grace's beetles. Oh, okay. This would indicate that Strat did not get a proactive pardon for breaking laws as needed to complete Project Hail Mary, as she did in the book. That's stupid. That's changing too many things. You didn't need to change that. That could have still been implied, and that could have just not been changed. Jesus Christ. In one scene on a large screen on the aircraft carrier, an early diagram of the spacecraft Hail Mary can be seen. The diagram is the same as a Hail Mary illustration from the book. That's cool. Ryland Grace is the only character who wears yellow outside of the flight crew and their backups, foreshadowing his eventual placement on the team. Okay. There are multiple shots of Ryland's beat-up white Converse sneakers. When they are shown walking on the Iridian beach, the laces have been replaced with pieces of elastic salvage from the Hail Mary. Nice. Based on the levels of decomposition and the length of their hair, Yao died before Ilyukina. Since Yao's hair and beard are noticeably shorter than Grace's when he wakes up, it can be assumed that he died fairly early into the trip. Wow. During the ending scene in which Grace teaches a class of Iridian children, the students' excited chatter includes the recognizable Flipper laugh, dolphin chirps from the TV show Flipper, used as part of the sound design for their vocalizations. That's cool. Grace names Rocky's mate Adrian after Adrian Balboa, Rocky Balboa's wife from Rocky 2, 3, 4, and 5. Rocky 2, 3, 4, and 5. Ryan Gosling's character, Ryland Grace, was in every scene. The only scene he wasn't actively there was the final scene with Eva Strat, and he was still technically on screen via computer video. Yeah, well, that's insane. This is because the book was written from Ryland's perspective, so the reader only knew what Ryan did. Okay. The final scene with Eva was an addition for closure on whether or not Earth received the Beetle probes. Okay. Wow. okay. So in the book, we really don't know what happened to Earth. So the book could get a sequel or whatever, right? Or with a thing, right? A closure. But they shouldn't. They should just leave it. So for the movie, they decided to kind of wrap it up for the viewers. Interesting. The small unmanned probe ships designed to carry data and fuel back to Earth from the Hail Mary mission are named after the Beatles, John, Paul, George, and Ringo. This is explained in the book. In one scene in the film, you see on a screen where the ship is named Beetle, likely to avoid trademark issues. They are named Beetles, the insect spelling in the book as well. It also plays a song from them. I think there's more references to them. But anyway, that's pretty cool. Grace shows Rocky many images of Earth, including trees. Grace's house on arid later has a large tree planted next to it. I know. That's what I don't get. Do you know how long certain things would have taken? Making the suits for them, that would have taken hours. Everywhere that Rocky goes in Grace's ship, all the glass things, you know how long that would have taken to actually make? All those things that Rocky walks on in the ship. It's so weird. Let's see. And then internal shots on ships were filmed on the RFA Wave Knight, A389, a wave-class fast fleet tanker of the Royal Fleet Auxiliary in HMNB, His Majesty's Naval Base, Portsmouth, UK. Notably, when Grace arrives on the aircraft carrier, the meeting takes place in the Wave Knight's hangar. The karaoke scene takes place in the crew bar, with Grace and Strat having a conversation on the signal deck bridge roof. And finally, when Strat is watching the video files of Grace, this was on the bridge of Wave Knight. This is the second use of an RFA vessel in a film after the RFA Argus in World War Z. That is really cool. I really like those things. Title Project Hail Mary is referenced early in the film as a sports metaphor for a Hail Mary pass, a desperate last chance play in American football. This idea is later echoed visually when Grace leaps to catch Rocky's communication canisters, Blip C, during a spacewalk, mirroring an interspecies Hail Mary pass between the human and Iridian civilizations. That is insanely awesome. That is amazing. Grace tells Strat that he cannot join the Hail Mary mission because his purpose is to teach classes. After being forced on the spaceship and completing his mission, Grace goes back to doing exactly that, but on another planet, adding to the happy ending. Strat does the Iridian goodbye gestures back to Grace after she finishes watching his final video diary. Yeah, that's very sweet. Strat's first scene is being ostensibly friendly. Then her agents roll up with an obvious threat to Shanghai Grace if he doesn't do what she wants. I love that. In the back, you see all the suits. So funny. Turns out that's precisely how she got him on the Hail Mary mission. Yeah, I think they force him in the book, I think, right? Second film where Ryan Gosling portrays an astronaut following First Man. In both films, his character has to pull his ship out of a dangerous, uncontrolled spin. And then finally, the last one, I guess, is the film begins with flashing red and blue lights, with the red in particular foreshadowing how astrophage can be perceived through infrared light. That is so cool. But that is amazing. That is a lot of trivia. Yeah, that is so cool. And then now we'll look at the goofs for the movie. Yeah, we'll see, because a lot of times, I think in this one, there would be incorrectly labeled as a goof because they're omitted from this. They're in the book, but they're just not in the movie. So the first one is continuity. On Ilyukina's uniform, the Russian space agency name is misspelled in Cyrillic as Cosmoros instead of Roscosmos. At the same time, the correct Roscosmos spelling is visible on the ship and other scenes, indicating inconsistent prop text within the film. That's funny. Before takeoff, the fighter jet looks like a modified Panavia Tornado with the sloped engine intake removed. A Boeing F/A 18F. Super Hornet can be seen during takeoff. After landing, the aircraft looks like the same modified Tornado again. This time the engine exhaust also appears to have been modified from the original, probably an attempt to hide the origins of the plane since it was never operated by the US or on a carrier. At several points in the film, the voice modulation translator for Rocky conveys words with emotion or strain. Yeah, that's interesting. Because these are canned responses in a computer, Rocky's emotion should have no bearing on the output of the words. However, the artistic license was likely done for the benefit of better connecting the audience with Rocky. Yeah, that's just the movie part. But they could have just figured out a way to do that. He could have just had software that does that. You know, they could have explained it very easily. The Hail Mary simulates gravity through either a centrifugal spin that creates a force toward one side of the fuselage, or through the entire ship's linear motion, which creates a force toward one end of the fuselage. These two methods are inconsistent, as some compartments don't seem to change gravitational orientation when they should. When Grace has landed on the aircraft carrier, you can see aircraft parked behind him. When the camera view changes to be behind him, you can see he is heading towards the crane of the fleet replenishment tanker and source supply ship that they actually filmed on, and it's not an aircraft carrier island. Okay. When Grace wakes up in the final scene, he is shown in a reflection to set a plain orange quilt on his bed. And in the next shot, the quilt becomes a patchwork quilt he had on the Hail Mary. When meeting with the mission team at an hour and 57 minutes, Grace is seen with glasses hanging from his ears. It cuts away and back to him without glasses, and then away and back to him with glasses again. That's pretty funny. In the tunnel where Grace chats with Strut after working with Astrophage for the first time, he's eating noodles out of a thermos. The thermos disappears from his hands and reappears between shots. Jeez. Correction, he's always holding the thermos. Sometimes it's at chest level. Sometimes his hands are lowered. Admittedly, this movement at times seems sudden. Okay, well, that's fine. In addition to the Jaguar, before the Super Hornet in-flight shot, after landing, the aircraft behind Grace is a former RAF Panavia Tornado GR1, and the aircraft to the left of frame is a former Royal Navy Sea Harrier FA2, both repainted to look generically USN. That's cool. And Grace and Carl are first shown in the hardware store. They are in the plywood aisle, and Carl is pushing a cart that already has aluminum foil and duct tape. The next shots show Grace and Carl filling the cart with duct tape and aluminum foil, but no cart with plywood. Actual errors. Grace adds 2 tubes to his centrifuge while testing samples. He adds them side by side. Even if he was using a self-balancing centrifuge, a trained scientist would habitually still add them opposite each other to ensure balance in the centrifuge. See, he should have just hung out with some scientists, you know, especially one that has glasses. During the space burial scene, the remains of the deceased astronauts are seen drifting out to space in a straight line at constant velocity relative to the Hail Mary. At the same time, Grace was experiencing artificial gravity during the eulogy scene. To create artificial gravity, the spaceship would have been either accelerating or rotating. Either way, the astronauts' remains would have been ejected at a constant speed while the spaceship was accelerating, which is inconsistent with the observed straight line and constant velocity drifting relative to the Hail Mary. Wow. After being in a coma for a long time, Grace wakes up with his beard and hair long. However, his fingernails are short. In a coma, hair and nails continue to grow because the person is not dead. That's funny. How come they could have had medical people read over the script and scientists? That's so weird. Multiple orange traffic cones are shown on the deck of an aircraft carrier, and one character uses one to throw up into. Orange cones usually have a hole at the top so the vomit would simply flow out of the cone. Also, no loose objects are allowed on aircraft carriers, including traffic cones. Yeah, they should have let some people, you know, read the script. Scientists, some military people, mostly them. And they would have been like, hey, this is incorrect, fix this. Next one is any work with an extraterrestrial microbe with an unknown infection potential would likely be need to be done in a flow box, but the film does not show any use of one beyond Grace examining blip B and taking the agent samples from the collector. Right. During Grace and Rocky's mission to Adrian to retrieve the astrophage-eating amoeba, their ship visibly glows from atmospheric re-entry heating, implying the presence of a dense atmosphere causing significant drag. However, Grace's spacesuit shows no such heating effects. Even if the suit were designed to withstand re-entry temperatures, the same atmospheric drag would still impart substantial aerodynamic forces, likely causing him to be blown off course rather than remain stable. And that is the last one for those. And then incorrectly regarded as goofs, Grace severs the docking tube between his and Rocky's ships, even though it was already established that it could be detached and retracted without the need to damage it. Correction. Oh, jeez. Why don't they get rid of these if this doesn't matter? Grace did this so scientists on Earth would have an ample supply of xenonite to study and try to replicate, since the material is extremely versatile. This isn't explained well in the movie, but it was in the book. All right. Xenon can be forced to be metallic, but only under great pressure. Tens of thousands of atmospheres worth. When the pressure is reduced to normal, the xenon reverts to a gas. However, Rocky's artifacts are not made of pure xenon. It's called xenonite to indicate that it's a compound. In the book, Grace explains that it's a complicated chain of proteins and chemicals, and that the handheld scanner cannot identify chemical elements below aluminum. That's why it shows only xenon when it scans Rocky's artifacts. During eulogy scene, Grace placed Yao's hat under Yao's arm. A few moments later, Grace is talking and he is still holding Yao's hat. The eulogy scene is shown out of order. Grace begins his speech. It cuts to after to show the audience the photos while he continues in a voiceover. And then it goes back to the beginning to show Grace finishing talking. If it takes 4 years at near light speed to get to Earth, it would correspond to many times 4 years on Earth. To many times 4 years on Earth. Okay. The information could not be returned in time. Ironically, Grace says Rocky doesn't know about relativity, but he somehow violated it. And again, a correction. This is so dumb. The Hail Mary was traveling at about 0.95 C, 95% the speed of light. At that speed, the time dilation factor is 3.2 what? Okay, I don't know. So 4 years. So 4 years on this ship corresponds to about 12.5 years on Earth, making the round trip time roughly 25 to 26 years, depending on the amount of time spent at Tau Ceti. Eva estimated about between 33 to 50% of the Earth's population would be dead in 30 years. So 25 years is cutting it a bit close, but it isn't too late. Wow, that's pretty hilarious. Jeez. Rocky's echolocation cannot directly see the information on Grace's flat LCD screens, since the displays have no physical depths that could be differentiated acoustically. The first time he's in Grace's display room, he even dismisses it as boring. Later in the movie, Rocky is shown building a device. It looks like a gun with a rock crystal barrel. Yes, like on it. It's on his hand. That converts images into a 3D relief display. And he's shown using it several times to make sense of the images displayed on the Hail Mary screens. Then the computer says foreign presence detected when Grace opens the lid of the artifact sent by the alien, yet it didn't say a word when the artifact was introduced in the first place. The computer alert is actually triggered when the open artifact releases some of Rocky's residual atmosphere into the lab. Grace even makes a shocked face when he sniffs the content of the cylinder. In the book, it's explained that Iridian atmosphere is mostly ammonia. Interesting. If Grace's crewmates, Yao and Ilyukina, were dead in any more than a few days, they should be very decomposed and unrecognizable. Oh, okay, here we go. Again, Jesus Christ. Correction. The amount of time they were dead is never stated. Yeah, well, it was probably for a good amount of time. Additionally, to preserve power and oxygen, there was no atmosphere inside the ship while the crew was in stasis. Their bodies were sealed inside bags, filled with inert gas, and they breathed through masks. Without any oxygen present, decomposition would be minimal. It states that Rocky's civilization has no knowledge of relativity, and yet Rocky is apparently able to successfully travel from 40 Eridani, Rocky's home system, to Tau Ceti, a distance of around 10.5 light years and back. At speeds approaching the speed of light, a lack of understanding of relativistic effects would make interstellar navigation all but impossible. However, in the book, it's explained how desperate the Iridians must have been to send an interstellar ship, never having left their planet's orbit before. Well, I think they did mention wherever that they overestimated how much fuel they would need. So he has a lot. So I don't get this part at all. That was stated, you know? Yeah, that's interesting. There was no need to increase the risk of the deconstruction of humanity by delaying the return of all 4 message rockets to Earth until after the dangerous Taumiba breeding experiments. Some of the rockets could have been returned after the first collection of Taumiba samples. Okay, well, another correction. What in the world? The odds that all 4 of the Beetles will make it back to Earth were not great. There's any number of things that could have prevented the small probes from reaching Earth. So 4 are used for redundancy. Therefore, Grace had to wait to send them until he was certain he had all the information Earth needed. At this point, Grace had not yet figured out how to prevent the nitrogen in Venus atmosphere from killing the Taumiba. The only way he was able to do this was with Rocky's unique xenon-based technology. Sending the Taumiba at the point would have done Earth little good. Okay, revealing mistakes in the first conference table scene. Grace's glasses are hanging from his right ear, then vanish, then reappear. At other times, his glasses hang from his ear. Okay, whatever. Spoilers, even though I think we already kind of read some spoilers. The first one is when Grace opens his front door near the end of the movie, he looks straight ahead on his own eye level, then down to see Rocky. Because he is on Erid, he is the only human there. There is no one on the planet who would have been eye level for him to see. Yeah, I know, that's kind of weird, but I think that was for us. The camera lingered to show us that we weren't on Earth. Yeah, this is honestly more for us. I don't really know if that's a spoiler. That's a camera technique. Camera technique. That's weird. Miscellaneous. Even though the hardware store part of the film is set in the USA, the POS terminal clearly shows the logo for Selco Builders Warehouse. This is a UK-only company. Rowling Grace is able to give himself an almost perfect coiffed haircut, even though he just has an electric hair trimmer on board. A hairstyle like this should not be possible under these conditions. All right, well, some of these I think, are literally like incorrectly regarded as goofs, as well as it's completely wrong. Yeah, some of these are wrong. Kind of strange. Yeah, so those are all the goofs. And then I'll read a few fan reviews. There are 3,254 reviews. That's pretty insane. One is 6 out of 10. Space movies are always my favorite. Project Hail Mary is an ambitious sci-fi film built on a strong central idea and a genuinely interesting scientific problem at its core. The concept using knowledge, experimentation, and interspecies communication to solve an extinction level crisis is easily the most engaging part of the movie, and it keeps you invested throughout. Visually, it delivers convincing space imagery and creative alien world design that helps sell the scale of the mission. There's a lot of imagination of how the unknown is presented, and that gives the film a sense of wonder, even when things feel a bit uneven in execution. However, some parts of the story raise questions that aren't fully addressed. For example, the pilot's death feels oddly unclear and not well explained, especially considering how important that event is to the setup. It's one of those moments that seems like it should carry more detail or consequence, but instead it's left somewhat vague, which weakens its impact. Interesting. There are also a few other narrative choices that feel like they rely on convenience rather than clear explanation, which makes certain developments harder to fully accept. Overall, Project Hail Mary is a creative and visually engaging sci-fi film with a strong core idea, but some unexplained story points and lack of clarity in key moments keep it from being truly satisfying. See, that's what I'm saying. This is why I'm giving it like a 7.0 whatever or something, 7 stars. I'm almost want to give it like a 6.8 like I was saying, just because like if it had those things in it, I'd give it an 8.3. To me, that would be the rating if it did all of this. And for the time that they put in and focus on the extra stuff, they could have easily put in some explanation for certain things, you know, and kept it at 2.5 hours. So interesting. Next one is 9 out of 10. Ryan Gosling for You. Spoilers. I guess I could actually read it. It doesn't matter. It's Ryan Gosling who truly carries a film, while the movie may not reach the scientific depth of Interstellar. It feels far more human and emotionally genuine. Gosling's character represents an ordinary man from Earth, and that grounded portrayal makes the story connect deeply. Yeah, maybe that's why it is the way it is. The blend of cinematography and character development throughout the film is beautifully executed. The concept of extraterrestrial beings is thoughtfully presented, balancing imagination with emotional realism. The small details, human touch, and ideas beyond human understanding are depicted exceptionally well. The camera work is impressive, and the film maintains its mysterious, tingling atmosphere from start to finish. 8 out of 10. Connectivity saves 2 worlds. Days after viewing, you're still processing what 2.5 hours of visual wonder has done to your person. The film plays to the connectivity vital in all worlds. From Eva's emotion-free delivery, a sign of the times, which is dripping with poignancy, to Rocky and Grace trudging off together into the distance down Dirtle Door Beach. Throw in the Wayata Maori song, and you've connected with this Kiwi soul. Those maybe are book references, possibly, I don't know. 9 out of 10, emotional, intelligent, and beautifully executed. 7 out of 10, incredible. 6 out of 10, it's okay if you don't care about the Book of Weir. See, I mean, that's what I was saying. Let's see what this is. Let's see what this says. Project Hail Mary, the movie, is not really a movie about a person who finds himself alone in space doing science to survive, like PHM the book, and the Martian book and movie are. It's essentially just a movie about Ryan Gosling meeting a cute alien in space and making a number of Joss Whedon-esque quippy, ironic jokes. Now, that's funny. That might worry you because quippy, ironic jokes can steal from a film's emotional weight, and that does happen here. But first, I want to address some of the strange wardrobe and aesthetic choices. It's a high-budget blockbuster movie, so I wasn't expecting boring ISS footage. The Martian both looked cool and was close enough to real, not to ruin immersion. And Dr. Grace, Ryan Gosling, first meets Rocky. He's wearing what can only be described as a Native American-themed quarter-zip sweater, and when Rocky asks to watch him sleep, he pulls up with a homemade quilt. The scene could have been set at the cabin of your local hipster, and you'd notice very little out of place, minus the alien. I get that the movie is moving through time, but in every scene, Grace is sporting a stylish, new, and completely out of place full-zip hoodie or Urban Outfitters style coat. In the scene where Straught tells Grace they're going to drug him to send him on the mission, he's wearing a huge bright yellow coat and a black beanie inside. You might say, who cares, that's just aesthetics, as long as they stay true to some of the key elements that drove the story in the book. They don't. You do get to know Grace is a teacher via one scene at the beginning of the movie, but his relationship to his kids is not emphasized at all. They speed through the Petrova line, astrophage, the engine's a threat to the planet, their attempts to mitigate damage to Earth, and about 90% of the story that isn't Gosling and the alien. And from here, I'm calling them Gosling and the alien because Grace is more Gosling than Gosling is Grace. See, that's okay. And the alien has no real internal life. It's basically a cute puppy that plays with Gosling on the ship. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I guess it is. I don't know. I got that feeling too. Why isn't the Rocky portrayed like another alien or like a human? Or you know what I mean? On our level, I don't know. Whatever. Or it's portrayed like he's like a dog. I don't know. One of the things I was most bummed about was they spent little literally 3 sentences on the primary team's methods of killing themselves. Once the mission is over, that scene emphasized the gravity of their task and the stakes. Without it, all the emotionally impactful moments like Gosling telling the alien he's not going home, or why the alien's crew died, seem trivial. The triviality is heightened because at the end of each emotionally intense scene, either Gosling or the alien cracks wise. I could write a novel about my disappointment, but this will be the end here. The greatest sin of PHM, the movie, is that it obscures the extent to which Grace's flashbacks are him regaining his own memory in real time. So in the movie, it's just an afterthought rather than a real psychological trauma he has to deal with during and specifically at the end of his journey. In the book, he's a hero in his own mind at first, and then a coward as he learns more about his past as a man who had to be drugged and forced to save his planet and his kids. Wow. Yeah, I know, that's really interesting. The realization of that he's actually a coward. Yeah, I don't know, I had to be drugged, whatever, I don't know. That's interesting stuff. The last scene is great, though, with the Iridian kids, but it's not even as impactful as it could have been because they didn't really go into Gosling's connection with his students on Earth and his conflict between his selfishness and concern for them. Overall, B-. Anything with Gosling, Ryan Gosling and space gets you a C, even if it was just him in his spaceship looking around at stars and flexing, and the studio clearly came to that realization too. There was some attention to the science the book covers to that, so that brings it to C+. And Rocky was cute but one-dimensional, so B-. That's pretty funny. I honestly agree with this review, which, yeah, I agree with that one. Someone gave it an 8 out of 10, science survival and most unexpected friendship in the galaxy. 9 out of 10, hope, humor, and stunning visuals. 10 out of 10, it's perfect. I loved everything about this film. It became an instant favorite for me. It made me really emotional, and I usually never cry over films. Visuals are beautiful, and I love the humor too. I've been thinking about it ever since watching, and I have already done a rewatch and now bought the book. Well, so you're gonna read the book now? I mean, I totally understand like that it's a movie. I get it. I liked the movie. I did. It was fun. You know, I keep saying it's just those things make me just give it a lower rating, you know, like the story is 8.3. The movie is 7 or, 6.9. You know what I mean? 10 out of 10, this movie is great. 7 out of 10, great family fun. A bit long. That's pretty funny. And then we can check out some Rotten Tomatoes reviews really quick. Here are the Rotten Tomatoes for this movie. Let's see. So the critics' consensus: a visually dazzling space odyssey that carries along effortlessly by the gravitational pull of Ryan Gosling at his most winning. Project Hail Mary is a near miraculous fusion of smarts and heart. Our audience says 1 stellar Gosling plus 1 arachnid-ish alien plus 1 Hail Mary mission equals lightning in a spaceship. That's funny. The critics' reviews: Tim Cogshell from Film Week gave it a tomato, saying everybody's going to love this movie. Sandra Hall from Sydney Morning Herald gave it 3.5 out of 5 tomatoes, saying at 2.5 hours plus, it also has its longeurs, but there are also some spectacularly beautiful moments, and Gosling makes an engaging companion who makes something poignant as well as funny out of Grace's unwelcome elevation to hero status. That's pretty cool. And then Dwight Brown from DwightBrownInc.com gave it 2 out of 4 tomatoes, saying praise Gosling for carrying the film and taking inquisitive folks along with him. And John Serba from Decider gave it a tomato, saying it's exemplary visual storytelling with crisp and efficient editing, enabling the narrative to segue smoothly back and forth between 2 timelines. Pretty cool. The audience reviews: Leslie gave it 3.5 stars, saying 3.5 stars worthy of look-see if you like space sci-fi. Ryan Gosling engaging, funny, and poignant. Matthew gave it 5 stars, saying the movie does the book justice. Really? Can't believe it. Phenomenal. See, I think the book readers just like it more because it's like they know what a movie is. Like, I don't know, you know what I mean? Like, it makes more sense to them, I think. Richard gave it 4 stars, saying I got a little too long. All right, well, good luck with that. You should see a doctor. Declan gave it 5 stars, saying the most enjoyable space sci-fi adventure movie. Very awesome, beautiful scenes, a different tense situations at some points. Richard Atkinson gave it 5 stars, saying this is one of the best movies I've seen in many years. It was funny, it was heartwarming, it was heartbreaking. Jacob gave it 5 stars, saying top tier space film, easily top 3 ever. That's pretty cool. So I mean, yes, overall it's very fun. It's very entertaining. I just wish it had those few couple of explanations and it would have been perfect. Okay, so that wraps up the trivia trailer review, the Goofs and some fan reviews for Project Hail Mary. It was a fun film. It was pretty cool. I'm looking forward to like whatever they're gonna do next, which is Artemis, I think. I think they're gonna bring back Phil Lord and Chris Miller for that. Andy Weir is writing that, of course, but I think he's gonna write a specific movie script. And I feel like if Drew Goddard doesn't want to write it or whatever, they're gonna let Andy or Phil Lord or Chris Miller. They're gonna let Andy Weir direct it. That would be insane. And then we'll see if he could do it. Maybe they'll let him write and direct it, you know, so that would be pretty insane. I hope that happens. That'd be, very awesome to see that. So overall, that is everything to do with Project Hail Mary. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. You can check out my full review on my other channel, and I will see you in the next episode. Peace.